The low murmur of voices filled the Frankfurt airbase terminal, blending with the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant rumble of departing aircraft. Captain Ethan Cole adjusted the crease of his immaculate flight suit, as if perfection in fabric could mirror perfection in rank. His sharp eyes landed on a lone old man seated in the section reserved for distinguished visitors and active duty officers. Sir, Cole's voice was firm, clipped. This seating is for personnel on orders, not for travelers without credentials. The old man looked up slowly. His clothes were plain, a faded plaid shirt, scuffed boots, and a jacket that had seen better years. His hands, though trembling slightly, carried a quiet steadiness. His name was Arthur Kane. I'm just waiting for a flight, he said softly, his tone polite, almost weary. Captain Cole gave a short laugh. A flight? From here? You'll need more than a ticket stub, old-timer. This is a restricted base. He motioned toward the nearby airmen, expecting compliance. Instead, silence hung heavy. Arthur reached into his jacket pocket and produced an old, laminated ID card.
It is, Captain.
Its edges were worn smooth by time. Cole snatched it, frowning at the faded photograph, a younger man. The same blue-gray eyes, the same calm expression. Retired, huh?
I know, right?
Cole muttered. Well, Mr. Kane, that doesn't make you special. These seats are for warfighters and command personnel. You belong over there with the civilians. Around them, the room shifted with unease. A few airmen glanced up, then quickly away. No one dared intervene. The authority in Cole's voice weighed heavy, turning the terminal's polite buzz into suffocating quiet. Arthur didn't argue. He simply sat still, his expression unreadable, like a man who had seen storms far worse than this one. Captain Ethan Cole stood with his arms crossed, jaw tight. The old man's calm silence only deepened his irritation. You heard me, sir. Move along, he said again, louder this time. The words echoed across the polished floor of the passenger terminal, slicing through the hum of conversation. Arthur Kane didn't move. His gaze was steady, almost gentle, and it only made Cole angrier. Don't test me, old man, Cole snapped. I am an officer in the United States Air Force. You're not. You will follow my direction. The young airman who'd been standing nearby shifted awkwardly, holding a bottle of water he had meant to offer, but the tension froze him in place. Everyone could feel it, the invisible pressure building, the line between authority and arrogance blurring fast. Arthur exhaled, long and slow. I served, he said quietly. Cole gave a mocking chuckle. Oh, I bet you did. What was it? Maintenance crew? Radio operator? Maybe you handed out coffee to real pilots? His tone dripped with contempt. Something flickered behind Arthur's eyes, not anger, but an old, distant sadness. I flew, he said simply. The captain smirked. Sure you did. Everyone flew back then. Cessna? Crop duster? Maybe a training bird? You don't look like a pilot to me. The insult hung in the air, ugly and loud. A few nearby service members looked up from their phones. They recognized disrespect when they heard it, but Cole's rank kept their mouths shut. Arthur's expression didn't change, but his voice gained a quiet strength.
It's a heavy burden,
Son,
isn't it?
he said softly, flying isn't about the look. It's about bringing your people home. That single line hit the young airman hardest. He glanced at the captain, then back at the old man. There was something in Arthur's tone, something that carried the weight of memory, of men who had faced death and refused to let it take them. Cole, though, took it as defiance. His cheeks flushed red. You think you can talk to me like that? I've logged more combat hours in the last 5 years than you did your entire life. I've earned this uniform. Arthur gave a faint smile, then wear it with humility. The room went utterly silent. For a moment, no one breathed. Even the captain seemed caught off guard by the old man's calm defiance. His authority, so absolute moments ago, felt suddenly fragile. Around them, airmen shifted uncomfortably. A senior NCO lowered his newspaper, eyes narrowing at the captain's tone.
Here you go, Captain.
Cole stepped forward, lowering his voice to a sharp whisper. Let's settle this right now, Mr. Kane.
Here you go,
Every
son.
pilot worth his wings has
Thank
a
you, sir.
call sign, a badge of honor. So what was yours? Or did they never give you one? Arthur hesitated. His eyes wandered to the window, where a massive C-17 transport sat, waiting on the tarmac, its engines glinting in the morning light. For a long second, his mind seemed to drift back to a time of noise, fire, and sky. When he finally spoke, his words were quiet, but they struck like thunder. Falcon 6. Cole blinked. The name meant nothing to him. But to someone across the terminal, a grizzled master sergeant with gray at his temples, it was like a ghost had spoken. His coffee cup slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor, the sound cracking the silence wide open. The young airman turned, eyes wide, realizing something profound had just shifted in the air. And for the first time, Captain Ethan Cole felt the faintest chill of doubt. The coffee cup shattered like a gunshot. Every head in the terminal turned toward the sound, the tension snapping taut. The man who had dropped it, Master Sergeant Harris, stood frozen, his face pale as chalk. His eyes were locked on Arthur Kane, as if he had just seen a ghost step out of the shadows of history. Falcon 6, Harris whispered, disbelief trembling in his voice. That can't be. No, it can't be you. Captain Ethan Cole frowned, confused and irritated. What's wrong with you, Sergeant?
This is an order.
It's just some retired
The
guy.
mission is compromised.
But Harris wasn't listening. He straightened instinctively, posture rigid, as though his body remembered something his mind was still processing. He took a slow, deliberate step forward, then another, until he stood directly in front of Arthur Kane. And then, to everyone's astonishment, he snapped to attention and saluted, his arm cutting through the air with the precision of a man standing before legend. Sir, Harris said, his voice firm but thick with emotion. Master Sergeant David Harris, 22nd Special Tactics Squadron. It's an honor, sir. A profound honor. The terminal went dead silent. Cole blinked, disbelief spreading across his face. Sergeant, what in the hell are you doing? You don't salute a civilian. But Harris didn't even look at him. His eyes remained locked on Arthur Kane. The respect in his voice was absolute. With respect, Captain, he said, his tone hardening. I'm not saluting a civilian. I'm saluting a legend. The young airman who had stood frozen before now swallowed hard. He could feel the air change, the strange, humbling energy that comes when a myth walks among the living. Around the terminal, older veterans and contractors began to stand, their expressions shifting from confusion to recognition. One of them, a retired Marine with a cane, whispered, "No way. Falcon 6? From the Vortex mission?" Cole's stomach twisted. "Vortex mission?" he muttered. "What are you all talking about?" Before anyone could answer, a new voice thundered from the far end of the terminal. "What in God's name is going on here?" Every head turned. Striding toward them was General Raymond Steele, commander of U.S. Air Forces in Europe. His 4 stars gleamed like cold fire on his chest. The crowd parted as he approached, the sound of his boots like a drumbeat on the polished floor. Cole immediately straightened and saluted. "General Steele, sir, my apologies for the disturbance." But the general wasn't looking at him. His eyes had already found Arthur Kane. For a heartbeat, the general froze utterly still. The stern authority on his face melted into shock, then disbelief, and finally, something rare for a man of his power, reverence. "My God," he breathed, stepping forward. "Arthur? Arthur Kane?" Arthur gave a faint, almost apologetic smile. "It's been a long time, Ray." The general's breath caught. Without hesitation, he came to attention and rendered a salute so sharp it echoed through the room. "Falcon 6, he said, voice trembling. "You're supposed to be dead." The words struck like thunder. Every whisper in the room ceased. Even the air seemed to still. General Steele's voice grew louder, each word carrying the weight of history. "This man," he said, pointing to Arthur, was the lead pilot of Vortex Flight, a Black Ops rescue operation during the Gulf conflict that was erased from official records. His crew flew into a storm of anti-air fire to pull out a downed Special Forces team trapped behind enemy lines. They called him Falcon 6, the man who could land a crippled bird on a postage stamp and still bring everyone home.
Sir, this is
He
military
turned,
seating.
glaring
Use
at
the civilian
Cole.
seating.
"Captain, while you were polishing your rank and barking orders, this man was flying combat missions that the Pentagon still denies ever happened. He was shot down in enemy territory and spent 3 years in a POW camp no one knew existed. He escaped on foot and led 12 captured Americans out with him." The crowd was spellbound. Airmen stood frozen, civilians stared with open mouths, and Captain Cole felt his world collapsing around him, every ounce of arrogance draining from his face. General Steele's voice softened. He was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. They held a ceremony for his family. They folded a flag. They thought he never came home. He faced Arthur again, his voice lowering with awe. "You vanished, sir. You just disappeared." Arthur nodded slowly. "I'd seen enough glory for one lifetime," he said quietly. "Peace was all I wanted." The general held his salute a moment longer before lowering it with visible respect. "Welcome home, Falcon 6, he said. "Welcome home." The silence that followed was absolute reverent, heavy, alive with the pulse of history. Every eye turned to Arthur Kane, the forgotten hero sitting in a passenger terminal, dressed in old clothes, holding nothing but a worn duffel bag. And in that moment, Captain Ethan Cole realized something he would never forget, that rank could command obedience, but respect had to be earned in blood, courage, and sacrifice. The room had fallen into a silence so profound that even the ticking of the wall clock felt intrusive. Captain Ethan Cole stood motionless, the weight of his own arrogance pressing down like the G-forces of a steep dive. The projector continued to flicker grainy footage of Arthur Kane in the cockpit, surrounded by chaos, fire, and loss. Each frame tore through the illusion of superiority that Cole had built around himself. General Walters broke the silence first. "Captain," he said quietly, "you owe this man an apology, and more than that, you owe him respect." Cole swallowed hard. His throat was dry, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sir, I didn't know." Arthur's gaze softened, though there was no triumph in it, only calm understanding.
Here you go, Captain.
"You weren't supposed to know," he said, his tone carrying neither anger nor pride. "I didn't come here for recognition.
Here you go, son.
I came to pay respects
sir.
to the friends who didn't make it home." Cole's composure cracked. "I judged you before I even saw you," he admitted. "I thought you were just another civilian trying to feel important." Arthur shook his head gently. "We all carry our own wars, Captain. Some just wear them on the outside. Others keep them here." He tapped his chest lightly. The general nodded in agreement. Mr. Kane was one of the few who flew the final evacuation over the Pyrenees Ridge under heavy fire, no less. Most of his squadron never made it back. The airmen in the room, once silent spectators, began to shift uncomfortably, guilt and awe mixing in their faces. One by one, they stood straighter, their eyes fixed on the old man who had sat quietly, ignored and underestimated. Arthur slowly rose to his feet, his movements careful but steady. "Gentlemen," he said, "you don't owe me anything. Just remember, respect isn't about age or rank. It's about understanding what it took for others to walk the road you're on." Cole nodded, the sting of shame replaced by genuine admiration. "Yes, sir," he said quietly, this time meaning every word. As Arthur walked toward the exit, the young captain instinctively snapped into a crisp salute. A moment later, the rest of the room followed, every soldier standing tall, saluting the man who had carried their legacy long before they ever wore the uniform. For the first time that day, Arthur smiled. It wasn't pride, it was peace. Outside the terminal, the afternoon light stretched long across the runway, painting the tarmac gold. Arthur Kane paused by the chain-link fence, the distant roar of departing jets echoing softly, a familiar sound that once defined his youth. He stood quietly, eyes tracing the sky, as if greeting old friends who now flew beyond sight. Behind him, Captain Ethan Cole approached slowly, no longer the rigid officer from earlier, but a humbled man seeking forgiveness. "Sir," he said gently, "I wanted to thank you for what you did and for the lesson you gave me today." Arthur turned, a faint smile creasing his weathered face. "The lesson wasn't mine, son. It was the sky's. It humbles everyone, eventually." Cole nodded, the words sinking deep. "You reminded me what this uniform is supposed to mean." Arthur placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then wear it with respect, not for power, for purpose." The two men stood there for a moment, the silence between them no longer tense but full of understanding. Then Arthur began to walk away, his steps steady, his figure small against the vast horizon. As he disappeared into the glow of sunset, Cole found himself saluting once more, not out of duty, but out of gratitude. Somewhere above, a jet roared across the sky, and for a brief, fleeting second, he could almost hear the whisper of old propellers and the echoes of men who once flew into fire so that others could walk in peace.